Just a reminder that these are the exact same people trying to email their idol Jeffrey Sell regarding their bus route amendment proposals. Again, as usual, before you guys even try to make bus route amendments, you need to understand the bus route's history. So I'm gonna give you Kovan, basically Hougang South and Hougang Central's bus history. I mean, all of them originated from Hougang South, so let's talk about Hougang South. One part of present day 113 is basically 321. And the other part was basically like this. This was 326. So when they merged to become 113, this part got cut off. And then obviously this part got cut off as well. And then it became a straight line. And then this part becomes like this. So that is 113. Nothing too deep about it. It's just a simple reorganization of services. I mean, nothing complicated. It's just a simple reorganization of services. Likewise, there are two parts that make up the current 112. So there is 327, which was basically just like this. And then the other side, it wasn't via here. It was via here. And then this part, the bus used to loop like this via Street 61. And then they changed it so that it better serves like Avenue 9 and Street 92 as well. And when they merged to become 112, this part got cut off again. And then this part got cut off as well. And then the route became like this. There was also this other feeder service that, okay, 325 originated from Hougang Central. And there were a few changes to the route, but that's not really important in this context because the only one that matters in this context would be the final route of 325, which I mean, you guys know the current route of 325, right? Okay, but then there was this 328. Again, same place, but the route was like a little different. It wasn't like this. It was actually Hougang Avenue 2, 10, 4, 8, 6, and then 10. It's 8 because it serves, I mean, it looped at Hougang Avenue 8. And then the route had a few changes here and there, and eventually it became 101. Like this. And then like this, they kept this part. And then yeah, there is this like this unique part as well. So obviously this part of 328 got deleted. This one as well. So basically this is how 328 from the black line it got changed to, it got converted to 101, which is the red line. Now here's the main content. Okay, so every single time I try to touch on briefly about the route's history, but what you will be most interested in is the present day versions basically. So as you can see, I've basically highlighted, not really highlighted, but I basically, I'm trying to tell you that these are the main areas that are served by like these bus services in general. And note the distinction between 101, 112, and 329. So if you want to put it very, very simply, 329 is supposed to be an enhancement for Street 91 and 93 because 325 takes a longer detour via Street 51. And 101 is supposed to serve Avenue 8, Street 51, and 112 is supposed to serve this part of Hougang Avenue 8, basically Avenue 2, Avenue 8, Avenue 9, as well as Street 92. So by design, 112, 329, and 101, they all have their own purposes. Then you might be wondering, what is 325's purpose? I've touched on it before in other videos, but I'm just going to give you guys a really quick run through. Imagine 132 doesn't exist. 325 is basically supposed to bring people from this main hub over here, Hougang Central Interchange, and then it's supposed to serve this part of Hougang Avenue too. Okay, because 132's frequency is like really bad, right? So you could effectively say that this part of Hougang Avenue 2 and this part of Upper Serangoon Road, it only has 325 as its connector, effectively speaking, because 132 is like pretty much non-existent. And 325's, obviously the frequency is better. And as I've mentioned before, at this pair of bus stops, you have access to 25, 55, 854. Basically, this pair of bus stops is the hub spoke bus stop pair for 325. There is another hub spoke bus stop over here, like if you're coming from 70, 104, 72, etc. Basically, you take 325 to intercept these bus services at Yio Chu Kang Road, and from these bus services you could transfer to 325 as well, like to go inside. And 325 is basically meant for this area. I mean this area as well, but basically 325 hub spoke to other trunk services, and from the other trunk services, including 854 as well, you hub spoke inside back to wherever you came from, like 325. I mean, that's the reason why 325 even got extended to loop at Yio Chu Kang Road in the first place. It's to touch the bus services outside. I mean, I've already explained this before. And in the context of this bus stop, the people along here, again, over here, I need to be very clear about this. The people living along here, if they want to have access, if they're not going to the main hub, which is Hougang MRT, the mall, or the bus interchange, if they specifically want a hub spoke to these trunk services, they need 325 to here. I mean, over here, sorry. You could argue that, like, okay, this red line is basically 62. I'm bringing up 62 because it ties into what those delusional bus enthusiasts have in store for like their whole bus rationalization plans. Okay. But basically, if your area isn't like covered by 62, especially like this area or maybe this area, these people, they cannot rely on 62, right? So they need to rely on 325 to get them to where they want to go, like to get them to the hub spoke bus stop pair at Hougang Avenue 2, like over here. Again, I know my words are a little bit choppy because everything I just say it straight from my brain. Whatever I think of, I just say it out. My videos are mostly unscripted, including this one, so I don't have anything to refer. I'm just, going with the flow of the video, however it turns out. So just now was a little bit more in-depth explanation, but to put it simply, people along this area, as well as people living along this area as well, if they want to get to this pair of bus stops to connect to other trunk services, they would take 325. And this is why I've mentioned before that a lot of like especially present day bus enthusiasts, basically if they're like born after 2003, I would say, they may not understand why 325 even has this windy section in the first place. They'll be like, why is 325 so windy? So I've just explained it. So going back to this, the delusional bus enthusiasts cult, I would say, they have this dirty plan, in short, to get rid of this and to get rid of this. And in compensation, introduce something. Why is that bad? And it's also coming from the same group of people that do not understand the differences between 243 and 258, like why both of them exist and the fact that they're supposed to serve different purposes. Like basically some towns like Yishun, they have like way too many feeder bus services, and if you're able to streamline all of them, basically cut down on the number of buses that are in the area, basically amend things but in a quote unquote smart way, then okay, I'll give it to you. You can give it a shot. But Hougang isn't Yishun. There is nothing wrong with the design of the feeder buses within Hougang, or like 112 and 113, which were made up. I mean, which are currently made up of feeder services from the past, like the Hougang South feeder services. The reason why people even talk about feeder bus integration, not into trunk services, but just a reorganization of feeder services in Yishun, is because Yishun, in that specific context, the feeder bus services, they were just added and added and added as time went by. Like they were just haphazardly added to the point whereby the older feeder services, they sort of lose their purpose, and the newer feeder services, well, their usefulness is kind of debatable, and it might not be the most efficient way to route buses within Yishun. Yeah, I could see that, but this does not apply to Hougang. When I look at Hougang bus feeder ser- I mean, when I look at Hougang feeder bus services, like the design, there is absolutely nothing wrong with it. And I think actual Hougang residents, they would agree with me as well. The reason why 324 isn't even uh, wasn't even targeted for rationalization by that cult was because there is a Y junction at the looping point. You get what I mean? So that 324, it just has to loop this way. But I do understand that these people, they absolutely hate the existence of 324 because they claim that services like this, whilst there is an actual need because of access penalty, like having to walk outside to Upper Serangoon Road, and then that area is like it's private housing. You cannot just cut through the void decks, like basically the ground floor of these blocks, just to access Upper Serangoon Road. And because of that, uh, there is like an actual need for 324. But again, the existence of these bus services alone, it pisses these people off. But in this context, there's nothing much that they could do about it, so they just sigh, I think. I mean, one person who has now broken away from the group, they used to suggest 324 being enhanced to basically serve Hougang Avenue. I know it says 8 over here, but it's actually 7 and 5. This one is still not that bad. And if people really complain, you could just do something like 324X, which becomes the current 324 during peak hours. Like just conceptually, like I don't really see anything that's like bad when it comes to like the 324 that proposal by that person whom is now no longer with that clique, basically. Because ultimately it was just a simple enhancement to an existing service without really changing the purpose of it. It's just making it call more stops in between, I would say, conceptually. Not really more stops in between, but like rerouting it so that it detours but serves more people. And a lot of feeder services in the past, they have done that. Like they've been amended to basically serve more people. Again, it doesn't really make a lot of sense if you have all these bus services and then you try to cut away two of them. The resources that you quote unquote saved from the deletion of these two bus services, you're not really solving the problem. You're just transferring the problem and straining the other services whilst claiming it to be more resource efficient. And not just that, you would also need to pump the new bus services that you've introduced as well. So you're not even making it more efficient. You're just cutting connectivity, transferring the buses from the cut services or the withdrawn services to other bus services, and essentially straining them. Again, the main point is the loss of connectivity, like essential connectivity. So again, with reference to this map, in short, what they tried to do is that they tried to make 112 eat up 325. And what I mean by that is that they revive Kovan, I mean this bus terminal, right? Hougang interchange, Hougang South interchange, whatever you call it. So what they did was basically, instead of going here, you would now have to go the other direction in order to like call Kovan MRT. Then you go inside Tampines Road. I mean, you reuse the deleted bus stops. It got deleted because 81 was amended to, after the Northeast Line rationalization, 81 was amended to skip this part of Tampines Road. So yeah, okay, that's one thing. And then I was told that that cult didn't even compensate like this part. And even if you wanted to compensate this part, you would have to do something stupid like this. And then you just basically skipped one bus stop for nothing. It looks really stupid. So what they did was actually they kept this part of 112 and then they deleted this windy part of 325, which is essential for the hub spoke, like I've told you before. They basically made it absorb, I mean, they let 112 absorb 325 like this. And then obviously they made it loop as well. They enhanced it. I don't mind the enhancement to Street 92, but basically, as you can see, I know this isn't really drawn to scale or anything, but what they're trying to do is basically let this bus service eat up this bus service and sandbag this entire area. And this isn't even really about. I mean, if you remember from a while ago, I was talking about how the exact same cult group had ideas of like, instead of making, instead of like just leaving the damn bus services alone and letting them all take the straightest route to Tampines Interchange, which is what these bus services are meant to do, they made it so that all the buses, they ate up like the Tampines feeders, their eastern loops, so that, yeah, instead of making them go straight like this, they made them whine, which is obviously going to piss off a lot of existing commuters on these trunk services. And not just that, because you cut away, because of their hatred towards feeder services in general. I mean, that's why they tried to get rid of 325, 329, right? They made it so that, like right now, I mean not now, but like they made it so that the feeder bus service commuters now have to take the trunk services, which would be affected by external traffic, like basically the congestion along here. If you've been here, you know that this area gets clogged up, like just clogged up, especially during peak hours. But in this context, it's not really even about external traffic or anything because it's technically still within like Hougang, Kovan area. So it's nothing to do with that. This basically just has got everything to do with their hatred towards feeder services in general and not understanding their design, like not understanding why this is a hub spoke bus stop pair, for example. And then you might be thinking, okay, so what happens to 113? So, oops, sorry. What did I do? Okay. So in compensation, what they did with 113 is that, okay, they made it start at Kovan MRT. Again, same thing. But they made 113 eat up the deleted sectors of 112. So like this. And you know what the worst part is? They didn't even make this new quote unquote 112, which is basically the old 322. They didn't even make it. That's the worst part because, like, I'm pretty sure there is a secondary school over here named Sinmin Secondary School. So if you live along Street 92, and these people, they just cut off your connection to uh, Sinmin Secondary School, and not only that, these people end up cutting your connection to Hougang Avenue 2, which is basically where your 25, 55, 854 is. You will be pissed off, right? Because what they tried to do, because it's like, I thought that this little thingy was just a mere enhancement of like 325, right? No, it turns out that these people aren't even aware that people take current 112 from this area to access Hougang Avenue 2, to access, again, like I've mentioned before, these bus services. And keep in mind, historically, 322, it used to loop at Hougang Street 61 like this, in a clockwise fashion. But they realized that this connection wasn't too useful because again, like this part already has like 3 to whatever, but basically they thought this loop wasn't useful and they amended it from the beginning of time. They amended it to call Street 92. Even before 112 became a thing, the feeder service already went inside Street 92 and then it already served like Hougang Avenue. It already brought people to Hougang Avenue 2, basically like back and forth, right? This connection has been there ever since like the beginning of time. And these people, they just cut it like nothing. I mean, sure, you can argue that, like, it's not only replacing 112 in this case, they even intended for this new 113 to replace 329 as well. And what I mean by that is basically like this. But here's the thing, these people have, I don't know, conveniently forgotten that people along Street 92 still need access to here, and it's unfair to make these people walk outside when they've already had this Street 92 to Hougang Avenue 2 connection for like years. And I'm talking about like years, decades. And these people just cut it off like nothing and tell people, oh, you can just walk out. And I'm very sorry to say, that's not where the problems end. You see, when they try to cut away 329, what they're essentially telling people to do is that, hey, if you live along this stretch of Hougang Avenue 6, right now, you gotta take 116, which again, there's nothing wrong with this, to Hougang Central. So here's the thing. Yes, if you live along Hougang Avenue 9 or 4, I mean this section of Hougang Avenue 4, I mean this section as well, yes, indeed, you still have 116. But if you zoom in a little bit, from this part you have 116, right? What about this part? What about this part? Over here. You don't even have a 329 to the main hub anymore. I know Kovan is a hub, but Kovan is a minor hub. And the major hub, which is gonna house Northeast Line, Cross Island Line, the bus interchange, the mall, blah blah blah, the amenities and stuff like that, or even Pongo Community Center. You need 329 to go here, and you're basically cutting off connection from Street 91 and Street 93 here, and then you're forcing people to throw via 325 like this, like this, like this, like this, to even reach here in the first place. Because I don't even think these people even give a shit about bus history in general. 329 was, again, it was introduced simply because they wanted people living along this area to have a faster connection to the main hub instead of like having to throw via 325. Keeping in mind that 325 has its own purpose, and the 329 that they've introduced, I mean by LTA, has its own purpose as well. And when you misunderstand these purposes, that's it. Not just that. If you take away 329, you're essentially straining 101 as well. I'm not saying 101 is like one of those services that, oh my gosh, it'll get affected by external traffic and therefore you shouldn't just let the residents depend on 101. I'm not even talking about that. Like, I'm not even coming from that point of view. It's simply the fact that, like, all the resources that you've cut away by uh, withdrawing 325 and 329, you have to split them evenly, not just amongst like 101, but you have to pump buses to this, to this, to this, and to this. So tell me, how is this saving resources? You're just making the problem worse, and you're just cutting off connectivity for no, like, just for no reason. So yes, now this entire area has to depend on 101. It'll throw here like this before even reaching Hougang Central Interchange. Why not just let them have their 329, don't touch it, so that these people, so that you can split the demand off, and not just that, you can make it so that everybody has like basically the most efficient bus route to Hougang Central Interchange in the first place. Why not just leave them alone, is what I'm trying to say. So recap. Not only did they conveniently forget about 325 serving this bus stop pair, not only did they conveniently forget that Hougang Street 92, I know you can walk here, but again, okay, I'm gonna reiterate my point. Street 92, right? And then this is Hougang Avenue 8. What do you have along Hougang Avenue 8? You have 74, you have 147, you have 165. So how do you connect Street 92 to here? It's simple, just present day 112. And not just that, they conveniently forgot about the bus stop hub spoke pair, the hub spoke bus stop pair over here, and over here as well. Not only did they forget about 325, they also just conveniently forgot about what 112 was even supposed to do in the first place before trying to replace 112 with, I'm just gonna replace it with 113 and I'm gonna eat up 329 as well. And then, like I've talked about, mistake number 2, not understanding what 1329 is supposed to do. For these people to have the most efficient way of accessing the main hub basically. So again, I'm gonna erase all of these and I'm just gonna show you everything at a glance, okay? 325, 112, 112. This area is served by 329. This area ish is served by 101. They are two distinct catchments. Two distinct catchments. This side needs a bus to Hougang. This side also needs a bus to Hougang. And if you're coming from Buangkok, you could choose either this bus service or this bus service. But obviously, if you want the fastest route, you take 329. Again, I forgot to mention one thing. Let me go back to Buangkok. If you again, these are newer flats, so obviously you cannot just cut through the void decks that easily. If your house, okay, what was I trying to say? Okay, basically, if your house is nearer to this bus stop or nearer to this bus stop, you take 101. If your house is along anywhere along here, right? You take 329 to access these bus stops. You could take 101 as well. Again, it depends on how close or far your house is to these bus stops, and that'll effectively determine, even if you have to wind via 101, that'll determine whether you take 329 or 101. And leaving one service, in this context 101, to die, basically, I mean, when I mean to die, it means like leaving one service 101 to tank the entirety of the demand from this area to Hougang Central, that is messed up. Again, if you're unsure of what this cult exactly is doing, they cut off the 322 portion of 112. And they're replacing 112 with 113, which also replaces 329, meaning that this area and this area will no longer have a bus service to Hougang. And then 101 would suffer. And back to this, there is one thing I still haven't touched about. It's their 62M. Basically, what their 62M is supposed to do, I don't know how they routed it, but basically, it's just supposed to cover. Oh my god, this is so stupid. It's basically supposed to like cover up. I don't even know where it starts and ends, but oh my god. It's supposed to cover up the deleted sectors of the 326 part of 113. This is not good compensation because you're not even touching Upper Serangoon Road. And the problem with that is that I'm gonna erase this again because right now I'm talking about their plans for like 62M. So okay, right now we're talking about this. Okay, so again, recap. If you're an existing 113 commuter, like basically, again, existing 113 commuter, and you actually take 113 to access like this area in general, and then this cult basically says, no, you gotta transfer at Kovan, I'm gonna cut off your direct connection, how would you feel? Let's say you want to go to this area, you want to go to church, or your school is at Holy Innocents High School. Because 113 serves like this, right? So you gotta wait for this 113. I mean, you gotta sit through here so that. I mean, again, if you're an existing 113 commuter and you have a direct bus to school, in this case, Holy Innocents High School, or even CHIJ, which is near the church. And then these bozos just cut off 113's direct connectivity between the 321 side and the 326 side. I forgot what year they merged these services. It was like in the early to mid 2000s, if I'm not mistaken. Again, it's like 2 decades from there already, and then these people, they decided that, okay, after 2 decades, we're gonna not offer you a direct connectivity between 321 side and 326 side. You just don't know how to react, right? Like, you had this connection for so many years, to over here, to over, like, if you're commuting from like Hougang Street 11, Lorong Asu, Hougang Avenue 1, and this is your destination, and then these people just conveniently cut it off. That's messed up, right? And in compensation, what do they give? A 62M that doesn't even touch this area of Upper Serangoon Road. That is served by 113. And not to mention, they claim to save resources, but look at how many services they have to pump right now. A new service, and then they're transferring the problem to these services, like I told you before, and they're cutting off a lot of like essential connectivity as well. So tell me, in what world is this resource saving? Which is basically their aim. And I think in this case, this even uses up more resources because you need to pump them. You cut away one bus service, you're transferring the demand to other services. You're just transferring the problem elsewhere. You're not solving it. So, in conclusion, if you don't understand the history of feeder services, you don't understand their purpose, ask around, ask the residents. And don't try to screw things up yourself. Like, don't try to like, oh, I want to do like a nationwide feeder bus integration, and I want to cut away all the useless feeders, and I'm gonna integrate all the feeders into trunk routes. Just don't do that, because like, remember, this is the main hub. Kovan isn't the main hub. People take 329 because they want to go to Hougang. Nobody wants to go to Kovan in this case. It's like, the Yishun Ring Road people, they are asking like, hey, does this bus 861 go to Yishun, go to North Point, that which is where they want to go? And then not many, they actually want to go to Khatib, right? All of them want to go to North Point. So again, in this context, they all want to go, again, like the equivalent in this context is that they want to go to Hougang. They don't want to go to Kovan. They're only realistically going to go to Kovan if there is something very specific near that area that they want to, that they're heading to, or they're just commuting via Northeast Line. And again, Northeast Line is so crowded, you might as well just board from Hougang, right, and not Kovan, right? Especially during morning peak hours, like if you're taking MRT, of course. I mean, it's like they don't even understand like the different dynamics of like the feeder services and MRT, and then here they are trying to like break apart connectivity that's like been there for like decades or 2 decades or 3 decades. You get the point. So you quote unquote save resources. I mean, in this case, you actually end up using more, but at the expense of what? People's connectivity? Because like, if you're complaining about, oh, this bus has bad frequencies, this bus has bad frequencies, even if you pump in the extra buses you cut from these services, the bus will still be crowded. And when a bus is crowded, like, it wastes time at the different bus stops. Even if you use bendy buses, okay, that's not gonna solve much, because you claim to be making the service more efficient, but the bus will actually waste more time at the bus stop, because instead of like spreading out the demand, you consolidate everybody and force them into like this one single service. Or you, like, initially they have five bus services, for example, discounting this, and you force the demand to be consolidated within these three services. Tell me in what world is that a good idea? Not only because of the cut connectivity, but think about like reliability, operations in general. Like, it's not going to solve much. And tell you what, because of how much time the bus wastes at like the individual bus stops, you're not even going to be improving the frequency in the first place, despite you guys saying, oh, I want to improve the bus services frequency. It doesn't work that way. Just because you pump more buses to a bus service, it doesn't automatically mean that, oh, the frequency would get better. You also have to take into account that the very passengers that you sandbagged, they are going to be transferred over to the resultant services, and they will impact the reliability of said services as well. So I don't know how do these people even cook up their own bus theory? I don't know, and I want to know. But don't listen to Singapore transport critic. They're a bunch of delusional people.